Today I'm going to be chatting with a Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealership and wanted to ask some questions pertaining to buying a new vehicle. Trade-in values. I know there's a lot of you out there that are wondering, should I trade in my old truck, get a new one? And there can be a lot of questions and things you'd like to know before you do it. So we're going to jump into the details of what to look for on a Carfax, accidents, service history, ways to negotiate the best deals. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Before we get to the podcast, I want to give a shout out to a couple of our sponsors that help make the Diesel podcast possible. The first is Kershaw Knives. If you go to kershaw.kaiusa.com, use code 40 TDP 2024, gets you 40% off MSRP. It's a great way to save some money on some cool gear if you're in the market for an EDC knife, something for hunting, fishing, around the job site, around the house. They've got you covered with a bunch of different choices for blade steel, blade shape, different opening mechanisms, different handle designs, and their whole lineup's designed to meet any budget. So if you're in the market, head on over to their website, use that code, and get 40% off MSRP. Also, recently we started our own apparel company called Rugged Threads Co. You're going to find a link down below. I wanted to thank all of you for your orders and the really awesome reception that we've gotten from you guys. It's been really humbling to see the orders. It's been really cool to get them headed out the door to you guys. So I just wanted to thank you. The team here and myself are very humbled. Look forward to bringing you guys more apparel, kind of like what I'm wearing today, that you'd want to wear really anytime. So we have different graphics for the truck lifestyle, things for the outdoors, tons of different things. So definitely head on over, check it out. If you have any suggestions, we've actually got a lot of really cool suggestions from you guys. Let us know. Drop us a message, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. All right, let's get to today's podcast, talking with a dealer and asking about the best way to get the highest trade-in value we can, how to shop for a new vehicle, and a lot of other things pertaining to vehicle purchasing. Miranda, welcome to the Diesel Podcast. I appreciate your time this evening chatting with me. I'm really excited to cover the topics that you and I had chat about. I know there's a lot of listeners who they face this situation a lot with, do I get a new truck? Do I keep my old one? How do I trade it in? What should I do if I plan on trading it in? And then I want to hear more about your story into the automotive industry and some really cool insights you have. So welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I am beyond excited to be here. So take it away. I cannot wait.
How did you get into automotive? Was it something you were always interested in? Was it something later on you decided, hey, I really like this? Like for me, I had nothing to do with automotive until I was about 28, 29. I was involved in a completely different industry. And then there was just one day where I thought, what do I really enjoy doing? What are my hobbies? And trucks was a huge one. And then I just thought, I'm going to do everything I can to try to find a way into automotive in whatever capacity I could. But I love hearing the story and people's journeys into it. So I'm curious to hear yours.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So it's funny that you say that. So my dad has been in the industry since the 80s. So I grew up around auto, which is really exciting. My mom and my dad they're still together, but they are the most polar opposite people you will ever meet in your whole life. My mom's a therapist and my dad's in the car world, if that makes any sense. And my mom eats like one piece of kale per day and my dad like has Chinese on speed dial. So they're very different, right? So I mean, I love my mom to death, but my dad and I are like the same person, but in two separate bodies. So I've always been like, I guess, into cars ever since I was little. Like my dad has this hobby. He likes to go find old cars and like fix them up and resell them. So he would take me like on these trips with him, like 2 hours away to go look at these cars when I was younger. So that's how I got started in the industry. And as I got older, I've always loved business. I've just always known I was going to be in the business world ever since I was 12, I guess. And I got my first job selling cars when I was 22 and completely without my dad. He still like is heavily involved with running a bigger dealer group in Ohio. But completely on my own, I just walked into a couple of dealerships. I'm like, hi, I want to sell cars for you. And they're like, all right, when do you want to begin? So that was my very first sales job when I was 22. And it's stuck ever since then. Like, I just love it. And I just can't imagine myself being in any other industry. So I'm very, very, very blessed to love what I do every single day.
There's a lot of similarities that we have with it. I'm curious on the business side, what was it that interested you or where you knew it was always something that you wanted to do? For me, it was the challenge of being creative and perseverance and trying to, I think, challenge myself. That like I said, I didn't figure that out till later, like my late 20s when I realized it. But that's what got me hooked with talking about it, learning from people. But what was it that drew you in?
Yeah, yeah. So that's such a great question. I don't know. That's a very hard question because I've always loved business, right? So it's just like, it's like, I guess from like the more business sales side, it's like the rush of closing the sale. I mean, I don't know. That's such like an addiction, right? It's like
Yeah,
it's really totally frank. It's like talking to somebody, then finding the car, then like you hope they like it and they do like it, and then you go through like the credit application process, and then it's like this build up, right? And it's like, is this going to go over the curb or is it not? And when it does, it's like such a win every single time. So I love that. Okay. And and B, it's like I just love like the relationship building. I've really kind of like developed in my career, which I'm grateful for. So now I'm in more of like a leadership role, I would say, at the dealer group that I'm at. So I do a lot of training. I oversee my department, 4 different stores, 4 other stores. So I do service to sales. So I actually relocated. I'm originally from Ohio, moved to Dallas, relocated from Dallas to the dealer group I'm at now to make this brand new department. I was given this awesome opportunity and I took it. So I love that side as well too. But the training and the giving back, and especially the being a female in the automotive industry, like I mean, this has a reputation for being a very heavy male dominated industry, but we just hired 2 new sales women at CDJR, which is awesome. And I've been able to kind of take them under my wing. And that's my absolute favorite. And they both just sold their first car this week. So I'm very proud.
that's awesome. It's awesome. There's a lot of young people who will find the podcast because they love diesel trucks and they want to get involved. And I think a lot of times the natural progression to do it is to get in on the mechanical side. And a lot of them will do that, but then there's others who don't know how they fit in, like me. Like to have a little bit of like story time for a second, is when I was in college, I thought, I need to do something part time. I need to pay for books, help with tuition. And I loved trucks back then. And I thought, I bet I could talk about them and sell them. So I went to a dealership. I think they were looking for a salesperson. And I sat down, I think it was a general manager, sales manager or something. And we talked a little bit. And then he said, well, if you want to do this, you can start Monday or Wednesday, whatever day it was. And I went home and I thought, it's hard for me to just go up to a stranger and talk to them and build that instant kind of rapport where they feel comfortable. And because I'm actually really introverted, even though I do a podcast, like it's really hard to just do that. So I said, it's just not going to be a good fit for me. Now you fast forward like 10 years or something like that. And I had learned that because of my passion and excitement about trucks, I could use that as a gateway to talk to people that I don't know, that I may have never met, and be able to have conversations and be able to identify with them. And so I wanted to ask you, did you face any of that? Was it hard to get into kind of that space, or was it more natural for you? Because I think that holds back a lot of younger people who may be like me, or they may find it hard to do that. And it was just, for me, it was a hobby. There's somebody, else in there. They want this vehicle or want to talk about it for whatever reason they might have, and I can identify with it. But I'm really interested in how you approach that part.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a really great question because I hear that all the time. And, I know it's very hard to believe, but I am a total introvert as well. So we're closed on Sundays, and Sundays that's my reset day. I do nothing on Sundays, nothing. And it's, I go to the gym and like my normal stuff at home, but I know I need that reset day,
Yeah.
because like I can go like 100 miles an hour, but I need a day where I'm just by myself, just to chill. So it's taken me a while to get to this point where I'm like very comfortable talking to people and all of that. Backing up a little bit, when I was in high school, like no one ever believes you when I say this, but I was like a total social outcast when I was in high school. I didn't go to prom, and I ate lunch in the library junior and senior year. So I've came a long way since then, and I've been very, very blessed to have a lot of awesome like mentors in my life. That's been really important to me and helped me like, develop communication skills, leadership skills, all of that. But I really feel like selling cars, especially at a young age, has so many benefits and it will teach somebody so much. Like you have to get out of your shell, and you have to talk to people, and it's fun. Like selling cars is fun. And I think the people that are most successful at it are the ones that do have to work a little bit harder to do well at it in the beginning. Like I'm a full believer if something comes easy to somebody, like really, really easy, the likelihood of them being really successful with that in the future is very slim. But if someone has to really work for it and they can really see, oh, like this is really great, I can do this, and it builds their confidence, and they're probably going to be really successful in the future. So I would say if you're a little bit nervous or not sure, just try it. You never know until you try, and you'll only get better.
I was the same in high school. That's really interesting that you mentioned that. I was the same. I was the same exact way. It it's just I love talking about this stuff because I never found information or I never heard people talk about it. Friends that I had or people I were around, they were really outgoing. They could jump into a situation or like after college or with jobs, they would just it was so easy for them, and I felt like I struggled for a really long time in finding what is my niche. And I think some of it is confidence, but I wouldn't say that was the majority of it. It was really about finding where am I comfortable. And so I think for anyone who's younger in that position thinking, hey, I want to do something in automotive, there are tons of different aspects to it, whether it's sales or whether it's engineering or whether it's marketing or any number of different things. There's so many parts of it. So I was really curious about that. And I know some people are going to find some value, in that. I wanted to ask you the question that I get so often, and I really can't answer it because I'm an emotional buyer. So if I see a truck or anything and I like it, it gets stuck in my head and it doesn't go away till I purchase it. But most people, and I don't think that's the way. I don't think it's the right way to be an emotional buyer. But a lot of people are logical and they think, they have a truck that's maybe 5 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, and they see this brand new model that has so much technology, or the tow rating goes up, or the payload capacity, or they love the body styling. And they say, hey, Patrick, do you think it's worth trading this in? Or sometimes guys will send me like for sale ads on trucks and say, what do you think? Would you buy this? And I'm like, I'm the wrong person to ask because if I like it, I'm going to tell you yes. But you see this every day. What would you say is like, what kind of, I don't want to say benefits of, because people know power ratings, they know the torque ratings, they know that kind of stuff. But what do they get with these newer vehicles that would sway them from, something that may be older? What sort of things would you say are really, I think, worth making the jump into a new vehicle and just letting go of the old one?
Yeah, I know that's a great question. I love that question. It's one of my favorites. So honestly, it's so situational. And I really understand what you're saying about being an emotional buyer because I'm the same way. They always say that like salespeople are the easiest to sell to other salespeople. So that's just so true. But it's very situational. But what I would say is you're really looking at your switch situation now and seeing, okay, where am I at? What are my goals with this truck? Like, am I running a business? Am I hauling? Am I going to need more hauling power in the future? Am I going to need more tow capacity? Do I need a downgrade in size? Do I need to upgrade? Like, do you want to switch to a diesel? Do you have a gas? Like, what do you really need to fit your needs? And if you're like running a business or you're, like doing towing for somebody else or whatever the case may be, and your truck now may be having some issues, okay? Because like I said, I sit back in service every single day, all day, every day. I sit back in the Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram service, and I see these trucks come in. And sometimes, I mean, like we want stuff to last forever, but things don't, Like nothing lasts forever. Something's going to break eventually. And sometimes it's worth it to trade into something new that's going to fit your needs for yourself now and in the future versus sinking money into something that's going to be in the shop once every 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So that to me is really when it's worth it to upgrade, honestly, just because I see it like all day, every day. Another really thing that I would recommend is like the interest rates. So if you're paying a higher interest rate on a truck right now, a lot of times right now, like the incentives, the rates are dropping, especially the rebates and stuff. We are seeing more rebates now on these trucks than we have seen in a really, 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 really long time. Like we have these coupons that we can stack on top of each other, and I can get people 8 to 10 grand off plus the rebates, depending on the model. So if a really good deal like that pops up, or if you're trying to like sometimes even lower your monthly payment, we can get you into a newer truck and actually lower your payment sometimes. because of the way the rebates work and the incentives. So that's what I would say. But the main reason when it's time to trade in is if you have a needs change, like whatever the case may be in your life, or honestly, like some people agree with this on me, some people don't. This is what I see every single day. Like if something happens to your truck every 3 to 4 months and it's in the shop every 3 to 4 months because it needs something else, like it's probably time to explore other options.
I hear that a lot with the newer trucks, like the once they made the switch over to like the DPF and the EGR systems, and as they've progressed, is once it runs out of warranty, those things can get kind of expensive. And I hear from people, you buy a DPF or something like that, it's out of warranty, it's $8,000 or more, or it might be tough to get. And I could see situations where that would arise where, do I want to do that every couple of years or worry about it or have it in the back of my mind? Or do I want to get into something new that has a factory warranty? Maybe there's updates to it. And
Yes.
I can see the operating or maintenance costs, or potential there being a major reason I would look towards buying new.
Yep. And that's honestly like really when I say it's time to upgrade, because I totally get the logic of like, oh, I don't want a truck payment, or you know what I mean? Or it's a depreciating asset. But you also have to think like this from a business owner, like time is money. And for me personally, like I would rather have a car that I could, or a truck that I can rely on that has a warranty. And I don't have time to be spending hours and hours and hours in the shop every 3 to 4 months. I just don't, because I know I can go to work, or you can go to work, whether you're a business owner or not, doesn't matter, and make more money like with your time than what you'll spend in the shop every 3 to 4 months. Does that make sense? So if you look at this from like a 30,000 foot view, I mean, more and more people are wanting to get out of these trucks that are like, maybe having some issues and into something like more reliable. And I will say, like trade-ins right now, I mean, the market's shifted. Like this time last year, we had very, very limited new car inventory, and now we have like a plethora of new cars. So new cars and new trucks, we have a plethora of them. But the market on the used is really tight, so it's kind of done like this. So does that make sense? So it's a little out of balance, which is great for the consumer right now because you can get top dollar for the trade-in for your truck and a hell of a good deal on a new one. So the market is in that sweet spot for the consumer, not so much for the dealer right now, because we have all this inventory we need to get rid of. And these used trucks, they come in, I'm telling you, they don't even last a week. Like I had a 2012 2500, a 2015 2500, and then I had like a 2021, I had two 2021s 1500. So 4 used trucks came in the last 4 weeks. They're all gone. All of them. They will sell before they even make it through service. So we need used car inventory bad. We have an overstock of new ones. So therefore, for the consumer, it's like the perfect situation for that. So like if you know of anyone or you yourself are looking to trade in, I mean, I'm being serious. Now is the time, just this is the way the market is sitting currently.
When it comes to the trade-in itself, what are some tips you would give somebody? I guess maybe they wouldn't be, well, they could be at the point right now of wanting to trade in, or maybe they're thinking, hey, next year I want to trade in this truck and I want to get something new. What are some things that they can do to be able to maybe get more value for it? Maybe have an easier time trading it in? What do you see?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm going to start out with a big myth when it comes to trading, since this is my favorite. So a lot of people think that when their car comes in or the truck comes in and it's like clean, that helps the trade-in value, and it does not. So we say, so don't go paying to get your car detailed or anything before you come in to trade in your truck, because that is just a waste of money, unless it's really, really, really bad. But that's the biggest objection I see, believe it or not, when people are trading in. They're like, oh, my truck's dirty, I gotta go clean it. I'm like, no, you really
It's
don't,
going to
unless
get
it's
cleaned
terrible.
anyway.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I just like that may be obvious to some people, but not. But I hear that every single day, and I'm like, no, because so no need to do that. Okay, but what you really want to look for, obviously, like the lower the miles, the better. Really helps with that trade-in value if you can keep the truck with a little bit lower miles before you trade it in. What we also look for, we're really heavy on the auto check and the Carfax. Like obviously no accidents is a huge plus. We don't want any like open autos or insurance claims or anything like that. So those are also like really big factors into it. And I would say just really service records are huge. So I think that's kind of like a little a lot of people kind of skip that over when they're trading in their trucks because they want to go into like, people want to just do a Kelly Blue Book, right? But that doesn't take into factor the consideration. Kelly's Lupin doesn't say, hey, send me your service records for the truck, or, do all that. They just do like the year and the miles, basically, for running the VIN number. So if you, during the lifetime, can really take care of the truck and then show those service records, that is huge, actually, because we have to go around and sell that, right? So now we have to take your truck that we just traded in and go sell it to somebody and say, hey, it's way easier to sell a truck if we're like, hey, this thing has had no accidents. If it has, it's been a minor accident. But here is every single service record that has been done to the truck. And we can show that to the customer. And that right there is a huge, huge, huge selling point that I think some people may be aware of. Honestly, I don't see that a lot. So I don't know if a lot of people are. And us as the dealer, because we have people ask us all the time when they're buying new or used trucks, like, hey, listen, like, what has been done to the truck? Has it been serviced? And obviously we service our cars like crazy when we get them in. So we do a full inspection. We send every single one of them through service. We really, really, truly make sure it's good to go for the customer. But we can't pull the service records if it wasn't serviced specifically at our dealership. That's the thing. So if somebody got it serviced at like a local shop or, somewhere else, we can't pull that. We can only show what we did to it here. And then the customer has to, like take our word for it. And I, like being in the auto industry, like it does unfortunately have a reputation of like, like people not being honest. I'm very upfront. And so to help combat that, if you can trade in your truck and have all those boxes checked, plus saying, hey, here's what I did to it in service, here's the paperwork, that will really, really help bump up your trade-in value.
I have a couple questions with that I wanted to ask you. With the mileage part, is there a tipping point with the value, say if it gets over a certain mileage, where, let's say it's 100,000 miles. So if I'm at 90,000 miles, I'm planning on trading in 6 months, I know roughly how much I drive. Would it be better for me to, try to keep those close to where it is? Does it, or what is the breaking point? Because I think with diesel trucks, a lot of guys just put a ton of miles on them because they're using them, like you mentioned earlier, for work, for business. They're hotshotting their, the construction company. They're doing a lot of daily driving. Is there a tipping point on mileage where the value takes a bigger hit?
Yeah, no, that's a really, really great question. And it does vary from gas to diesel because diesel has a reputation. I mean, you can run them till the wheels fall off, So literally, so like those engines will have 400, 500,000 miles on them if you take care of them. Gas, a little bit of a different story. But rule of thumb, I would say, is anywhere between the 75 to like 90,000 mile mark is the sweet spot. Because you've driven it enough, right? Hopefully you've paid it down enough to where you're not carrying any negative equity or very little. However, it's still considered like low miles. And when you hit that, like, I don't know, I would say like definitely the 100,000 mile mark is kind of like the rule of thumb. But honestly, like 89 and above is the kind of that tipping point where it starts. So if you're someone who's wanting to like trade in these trucks every couple of years, which, like, I mean, I'm a huge component of that. That's how I do with my car. I try to stay in that mileage range. Because that's typically the good point. Definitely over 100,000 miles. But if you can trade it in before it hits that 100,000 mile mark, even if it's like that 92, 93, that's definitely like the tipping point.
With the accident part, I'm really curious about this because when I look at used vehicles from the consumer side, I can see, there might be a really clean truck and it'll say like right rear body damage, it happened 3 years ago. I don't see any more information than that, and I'm not buying it from the original owner. Would it help if, say it was something really minor, say it was, the bumper got pushed into the rear quarter panel and they got a new bumper and the paint wasn't damaged, so it was PDR'd or something like that. And I had like the information from the body shop or wherever I took it to be fixed. Would that help as well when I go to trade in versus, I'm not sure how much detail you guys can see as a dealership, if it's more than I can see like as a consumer, but that's held me off from buying things in the past because I just don't know. Am I relying on, the expertise of a body shop to be able to blend, the metallic paint into the rest of the cab? Was it something super, super minor? I just don't know, and I'll just walk away from it. So I was curious if more information with that side, if there is a minor accident, would help as well.
Yeah, I know that's a really great point to bring up. And unfortunately, we can see what you can see as a consumer. So if the car or if the truck wasn't here, like if it wasn't purchased at our store and serviced here all the time, we can only see as much as you can see. We can pull the Carfax, and it says even if it's minor accident, it says like, like you said, right rear bumper or like front side, and that's it. And that's really vague, right? And also you have to think like, and also I would really be wary of people like doing this. I should just coach a customer on this the other day. Like if you file an insurance claim on your truck, it's going to show up as a minor accident, even if you file the claim to get the windshield repaired. So like I just went through this with a customer the other day and kind of advised him, suggested him to do some things with that. But that's also a thing too. So minor accident, it may not even be an accident. Or if someone's shopping cart may have just dinged it and they just filed an insurance claim because their deductible is $500 and it was just $1,000 to fix the ding. You know what I mean? So it could be very minor or it could be more major. So definitely, if you could keep the report as to exactly what happened, that would be huge. And that also obviously would help increase the trade-in value because we can go to the next customer and say, hey, listen, this says minor accident, but the rock just hit their windshield and they just filed an insurance
claim. Yeah, that would make the difference in a sale for me.
Yeah, for sure. Because it gives you that peace of mind.
Yeah.
Right. Because it only shows up, it's crazy, on the Carfax as minor or major. And those two words are so vague, right? It's like, and everybody's definition of minor damage and major damage are totally different, So I definitely would. I love that idea of saving, if you get anything done to it, being like, hey, this is what happened. Or if you could even take some pictures. I know that might go a little bit far, but if you really wanted to, just be like, hey, like this is what happened. Like it's all good.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. I've only sold one vehicle person to person before, and it was a truck I bought brand new. I kept it immaculate, and the buyer came from out of state, and he wanted everything. He wanted to see all my maintenance records. He wanted and I happen to keep all that stuff because I'm really detailed, but it made the sale so much easier because I had it. And so I think that a lot of people, like we talked about earlier, when they have an older truck, they want to get a new one, they're going to be working with a company. Like you guys see, I don't even know how many hundreds or thousands of vehicles in a given time frame. So, like, what are you guys looking for? What can I do proactively, to get ahead of it? I'm also thinking about people in other regions because our listeners are all over the U.S., and I've had people on the podcast that, are enthusiasts and they've had to do a restoration on their truck because they live in Wisconsin and there's tons of salt on the road, or another state, or it's a 25-year-old truck from Arizona and there's no rust, but the clear coat started to kind of, take a beating with the sun. And just depending where people are, it can be different. And there's a lot of people in the military who listen to the podcast, and they're going all over the country. They might end up in Virginia or Texas or California or wherever it might be. Are there certain regions where, say if I lived in the Midwest with salt on the roads and I drove in the winter for 8 years and I go into your dealership, where you guys look at it closer, look at the undercarriage, is there rust developing? Are there certain things like that which can affect the value on something that's 25 years old, but maybe it's 5 to 7 years old, something kind of newer?
Yeah, no, that's a really, really great question. And honestly, it can. Like I'm a pretty straight shooter, and honestly, 100%. I would really recommend if you live up north or somewhere where it snows, you get a lot of salt, if you can keep it garaged. I know that's not feasible for anyone, but and honestly, like it really depends on the type of truck and what features it has on it, because some of these trucks are like one of a kind. Like we ship all over the country. 35% of our customers don't even step foot into our dealership. Like we ship to Texas all the time, California. I mean, I have a fleet deal working in Texas right now. That's like a 60 car deal that's kind of in the works. So we're about to ship a bunch of trucks to Texas. And I get comments from customers saying like, hey, like where is this truck from? That's a very common question. Like, is this from up north? And I will be honest, a lot of customers are a little wary if I say it's from a northern state. Like if I have to say it's from Michigan or, even New York, they're like, oh, I don't know. So a lot of customers like trucks that are from it's like Virginia and under is what people like. Like first bottom half of Ohio and under is kind of like what I'm finding. However, if you and obviously like people up north need trucks probably more than people in a warmer state because they got to get through the snow and stuff all. So I would say if you do that, if you could just really be mindful of like just washing the salt off of it if you can, keeping it garaged if you can, and then just really keeping up that maintenance stuff. So that's definitely something to be mindful of. So if you do, just make sure you're doing extra precautionary things. There's also something you can get called Zurich Shield. It's the same, it's like a ceramic coating. There's a couple different brands for it. That can really, really help repel the salt and all of the snow and all of the grime that can just sit on there and eat it. So if you do live in like a northern state or somewhere where it snows a lot, I would definitely recommend to get some sort of ceramic coating on the truck because that will really help the paint. It will help preserve all of that, and it will help with a lot of, like possible headaches.
Common question we get from you guys a lot is, hey, I need a diesel engine. I either, I can't wait this long to get one, or normal place I get stuff from it just takes too long, or they don't have the parts in it that I need. Maybe my truck's not stock, or I tow heavy with it. I don't want to go back with just a stock engine. DFC Diesel is a sponsor of the podcast. We worked with them, hand in hand on doing episodes, answering technical questions. They have a complete lineup of Cummins, Duramax, and Power Stroke remanufactured engines that are set to a standard of ISO 9001 2015 standards, which is a huge deal in the aftermarket. And there's certain levels of quality testing, validation that are required for that. So when you get one of those engines, the type of quality that's built behind it with an industry-leading warranty that's really comprehensive. And the other thing with that is sometimes the options that are out there, it's a basic OEM engine. You want a little bit more. You don't want to have the same failure again. So there's a bunch of different series of engines that they have, from core, street, tow haul, and also the Speed of Air series, which we've covered on the podcast before. There's a lot of really cool benefits to it. And if you have questions about that, reach out to them. If you don't know the type of engine that you're looking for, if you go to dfcdiesel.com, there's a ton of info there. You can send an email or you can reach out to them. Also, they're working with Speed of Air pistons, which it's the only piston that pays for itself. And there's a lot of really cool technology behind it. So you can add that into your build and be able to get better fuel economy, increase power, increase torque, and better engine life out of it. Some of the most common engine applications or series of engines that they have with that lead time, a lot of them are in stock or they have really short lead times. So you can check your favorite retailer or go to dfcdiesel.com, check them out, see what's in stock, see what you can get. If you have questions, maybe you want to do something that's outside of the normal series of engines, they have tons of choices for rods, cranks, pistons, valve train upgrades, tons of different things. So if you're in the market, definitely make sure and head on over and check them out. So if I'm listening to this podcast, I'm in this position and I've got this truck that's 5 to 7 years old and I'm ready to do it. I've got all my maintenance records. I've never had an accident. I see this new model that I like. The next thing that comes up is the dealership experience. And I wanted to ask you about that because I remember being a kid and going with my parents and it was like an all-day affair at the dealership and them like haggling back and forth. And I remember that as a kid, but then I've bought in some new trucks where I did it all via email, and I just showed up, signed the paperwork, and I was in and out in 30 minutes. It was very simple. And like you mentioned, salespeople are like the easiest people to sell to. Like I don't window shop. So if I go in, I know exactly the color I want, the trim level I want. I'm very easy to sell anything to because I've already made up my mind of what I want. But for people who aren't like that or don't have a particular trim level or color in mind, they know some basic things that they want. What are some things that they can do to make their experience better? What would you advise or coach somebody who's ready to purchase a new vehicle to maybe think about ahead of time or have, their paperwork in order or anything to make it go smoother?
Yeah, no, I love this question. That is a great question. I love it. So you're totally right. The dealership experience can last all day long or it can be an hour. So a lot of it, that whole day experience does also a lot to have to do with like someone just it's called, the slang is up, the word up, bought up when somebody just walks in from the street. So if someone just comes on in and they're not really sure what they want, we have to put them on the car, find the right car, make sure they love the car, then do all the numbers, and that can take a minute. But if you know what you want, I don't know if you know this, but like people will buy from, every time you step into a dealership, people only buy from 1.8 stores. So people walk into less than 2 stores before they make a purchase. So people do nowadays with like the internet and all of that, people will do an average of 18 hours shopping online. So we have gotten pretty savvy as stores, and we know that people are shopping online first. And we know people don't want this to be like an all-day extravaganza, and I get it, So what I would really, really recommend to do is like every single dealership is going to have an internet department. What I would do is I would put in an inquiry on the truck that you want. And there is so much online shopping right now. Like I know when people come in, they know what they want or they have an idea because everyone Googles stuff first, right? So if you can like put in a lead to the internet department, say, hey, I want this truck. Here's where I'm trying to be payment wise. What can you do for me? If you can like agree to those numbers or agree to rent numbers or have the truck pulled like ready to go, then all you have to do is go into the dealership and then you're already set with the salesperson, right? They should have the truck pulled up and ready for you. All you have to do is take it for a quick test drive, pop it down, like, agree on the numbers, and then they should have you in and out of finance ready to go. So that's definitely the way to do it for sure. If you can give them a heads up that you're coming so they can plan, that will save you hours. So at the very minimum. Now I will say some people like to work the numbers and like do the whole credit application and everything completely over the phone, and we can do that too. So literally all we have to do is like you just have to come in and literally sit in finance, sign the paperwork, and you're out of here. So yeah, there's a couple of different like scenarios for that, but definitely give them as much information as you possibly can. I would not recommend just to like kind of like randomly show up one day. I mean, you can if you want to, but if you're trying to save time and get in and out, just give them a heads up you're coming. That will save you tons of time.
Yeah, it's really hard to do, and I think the online shopping experience makes it so much easier. Where I find some dealerships do a really great job and some don't is the pictures. Sometimes, some of them will have one picture or two and it's not close up, or I don't see inside the cab. And then other ones, there's like a 360 view. There's tons of different pictures. I know like that's the color I want. It's the trim level I want. It's, everything. It makes it so much faster. So I think that online experience and thinking about your needs and the things that you want would be just save you so much time when you go to buy it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And a lot of times, like especially for like the used truck side, like if we get in a used truck, what we'll do is, and we know we're taking it on trade, we'll take like the salesperson, we'll take pictures with their phone, and then the used car managers will pop that straight online. And then just to get something up there, right? And then because it typically takes around 3 to 5 days to get the truck through service, through detail, sticker it up, and out onto the lot. Then once it's done with that whole process, our photographer will go on and take like the 45 pictures of it and do the 360 angle and then put it on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the process of when it comes in. So if you notice a truck that's online that only has a couple pictures, just put in an inquiry on it and be like, hey, can you send me some more pictures? We do that all the time. Then we can actually run out and take some more pictures for you from the truck, like whatever you want, and send them to you. So if you do run into that situation, I would definitely recommend is to ask for more pictures. They can totally get this for you.
Very cool. Before we get to, there's a part I really wanted to spend some time chatting with you about, which is the business side. But one last thing with the trade-in is when people have aftermarket parts on it. And I don't mean like replacement parts, like you had a turbo go out and you put a different turbo on, but I mean things like programmers or anything that's like that, or just any, not necessarily lift and wheels and tires, but more the performance stuff. Does that affect the trade-in? Is it something you guys look harder at?
That's a great question. Typically for trucks, no, not typically for trucks unless it's really, really extreme. Now, we also sell like new Challengers and new Chargers. We have a lot of like, higher performance cars that come in. It affects it more for that side of things.
Okay.
Like if a Challenger comes in, it's been really heavily tuned or a whole bunch of modifications on it, that can either really bump the trade-in value if it's like something that's been, that would be more accepted by the general masses, or it can really, if it's something really out there like a modification, it can really heavily decrease the value. But that's definitely more of like the sports car side or the high performance car side. But for trucks not so much. I mean, like truck guys or girls are girls, all the above, but like not so much unless it's really, really extreme for the truck specifically.
That's good information. I know there's a lot of little things that we do to trucks, just either for reliability or for different things. And sometimes people will say, "Well, do I need to take this off? What should I do?" So I think that'll definitely help them. We were talking before the podcast a little bit, and you had talked about the business side and what you're doing at with the company. And I thought you said something that really struck me. You talked about the economy and how, depending how you look at it, there's a lot of opportunity. And the reason that really struck a chord with me is what I talk about a lot is aftermarket products. I deal with lots of companies, and I've seen the change over the last 3 to 4 years versus how it previously was, where some companies will just completely clam up. And it's like they pull back marketing, they pull back resources. I know they're trying to protect their business, or they think they're protecting their business. And then there's other ones who go all in. They expand, they hire more people, they have a better training system, they're recruiting people better. They're investing in their website, their technology, their pictures, how they get the word out. And so I wanted to ask you from like more of an OEM kind of standpoint and what you're doing, how do you approach that day to day on the business side and developing the team that you're building?
Yeah, no, I love this question. Thank you. That's a great question. And for where I'm at right now, that's really, really applicable to where I am. So like I said, I live in Virginia, and our dealer group is in Stanton. I'm a CMA Valley Cars in Stanton. And like I said, I relocated here in February, and I started at the Honda store. Then I moved down to Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. And then that was about 2 months ago. And honestly, that store is in like a total over, especially with the team. Like we have done, like there's been management transitions, sales floor transitions, nothing bad. It's just like, life cycles, right? I mean, we had a couple people move and relocate, you know what I mean? We had to really focus on say, who's going to have a positive mindset here. And if you don't, then like, it's not personal, it's just business, but like, we're not a fit, So when I first came over there, cause I was a part of like the team that are coming over to help, like turn some things around. And it's crazy how much it's changed over the past 2 months, just literally by saying, hey, we're going to have a positive mindset about this. Right. And then, yeah, the economy is a little bit shaky. You know what I mean? Whatever the excuse may be, like, I don't care what it is. We're going to look at this with a positive mindset, and you can choose to participate in that, and great. And if not, that's okay. But like, we're just not going to be a fit. So we're not going to come in here and we're not going to be Debbie Downers. We're going to say, hey, listen, this is an opportunity. Okay. This is a huge opportunity for every single person in here to be ultra successful. This is probably the biggest opportunity that most people will never, ever, ever see in the car industry is turning around a store. Right. So that's kind of like where we're at. And it starts with mindset. It really does. And that starts with like everybody, like I like to think of everybody as kind of a leader, but like the leaders that are like really stepping up and saying, hey, listen, we're going to have a positive mindset here. This is what we're going to do. And then also they're pumping other people up as well too. And it's amazing how other people will have more of a spring in their step, so to say. And like, they'll smile and say hello and say, yeah, I got this, just by like a few people being positive and having a good mindset. So I know the economy is shaky right now, like in the whatever world you're in. I mean, it is an election year, but that's people can choose to like say, hey, like, I'm going to buy into this and say that like the economy sucks right now, or I'm going to say, hey, listen, I'm going to figure this out and it's going to be an opportunity. So if you can make a great opportunity out of something a little harder, you're going to absolutely crush it when it's easy, when the economy is really good. So that's totally the way I see it, and is what I believe, and that can really impact a lot of people.
What about the technology side? And I'll step back for a second and ask the question is, like, my mom she really wanted a Cadillac SUV a couple years ago. And I don't know why, but that's just what she always wanted. And she decided to buy it.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, Mom, let's go on the websites and check them out, find the color you want, find everything. She's like, no, I want to go look. And I'm like, all right, I know this is how like your generation did it, is you would like drive around all day and use a bunch of fuel and everything and be the walk-in person. But let's find the one that you want. So like in my discussion in the aftermarket, I see different breaks in the types of teams or organizations. And it's really tricky. I don't know the answer to this, but you'll have people that have been in it for 30, 40 years, 20 years. They have a ton of knowledge. They've made all the mistakes. They've learned how to build something, how to develop something, how to market it, how to do all that. But they're almost stuck in the methods and the ways that you could reach people. And then you have younger people who they grew up totally different, even different than me. Like they were using smartphones when I was playing with like Lincoln Logs and stuff. So they know how to use like all these things. They can access stuff. They purchase and consume information differently. Do you find when building a team or looking at it, are you able to blend almost these polar opposite ways of experience, knowledge, know-how with the way that we reach and communicate with people in 2024? Like there's no newspapers anymore. Magazines really aren't a thing. I don't think radio's a thing anymore. And so the old ways of marketing, the old ways of doing things don't necessarily work now. And time, like the younger people are just so far advanced and into these different industries. How do you approach that side?
Yeah, no, that's a really, really great question. And I think for any industry, it's kind of situational for that. But I know for sure in auto, they can be blended for sure. Auto is so cool. And just taking a step back, I've been wanting to say this the whole time, what you said at the beginning. There is a position for every single person in the auto industry, whether you're an extrovert, introvert, whatever you're into. I mean, you can do podcasts like you do at the dealership. We have so many different departments for so many different like types of people. That's why I just love this industry so much, because it's like the most inclusive industry of every single person that I can think of. I mean, there is something for everyone. And for saying that, for like the technology side, from like a salesperson perspective, if the person, like they're a little older and they've been around the block, they're going to sell to people like that, because people that are like them need cars too. Right. And
Yeah.
they've been around the block, they probably have a bigger Rolodex, right? Like we have this salesperson, he is at our Subaru store and he's semi-retired. He works like 3 days a week and he just rolls off of referrals. That's all he does. I don't even know if he has a social media, like who knows? But he has been in the business for so long, he makes his living and operates off of referrals and only works 3 days a week. Like it's crazy. So, which is incredible, you know what I mean? And I think that's kind of, if someone wants to be in sales for a long time, obviously that's a part of their goals to get to that point, which is really great when you are there. So I think that people will learn how to work their book of business the way they need to. And we get people that are kind of in the older generation all the time that they don't want to online shop. That's the thing. So I think that's the kind of kicker there. Like the younger generation, they want to online shop. They want someone who's computer and tech savvy, but older, especially with trucks, these older guys, they don't want to shop online, and they want a truck with nothing on it. They want most of them just want a base level truck. Like half of these like older farmers that come in, if we had a brand new truck with crank windows, they would buy that thing first. So so that's just the way it is. And they'll be paired with that kind of salesperson, and the know, like, and trust factor comes in as well too. So they're probably gonna like know, like, and trust a little bit better with like a salesperson a little bit older that gets it. Does that make sense? So it's pretty easy to blend that. And honestly, for a sales floor, I think it's important to have kind of somebody from all age generations on the floor. So we can just make sure every customer that comes in is really comfortable and like works with who they want to work with.
Do you find that some people, like if you were able to almost merge the two, where you could have somebody that has the experience, like the referral network, like that referral network is gold.
It is.
And that's built based on years of personal dealings and working with people. You can't buy that.
Right.
Likewise, on the younger side, they can consume and navigate information so quick that they can sift through a whole bunch of stuff and narrow it down. Is it possible to kind of merge them a little bit? Because I'm in between both generations. Right. So I see the strengths of one and the weaknesses. I see the strengths of the other and the weaknesses. And I think like I have to relate it to myself, I guess, to understand is I think what type of salesperson would I want? Would I want to just do it all online, go in, sign, leave? I'd probably kind of lean that way. But then also to have that personal touch is really nice too, because I'm probably going to buy another vehicle in 3 to 5 years. And when I can just send somebody an email or call them up and say, hey, I'm in the market again, and they know what I want, they know what I expect, they'll maybe go and, make some calls for me, or say, hey, our other branch here in this other state has this white one or this silver one or this red one. I'll get it. You can kind of merge them. Do you find that as well is happening, or would you like it to happen? Or do you keep the team kind of in the lanes that are their strengths and then line up the potential customer with whoever that might fit into?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think merging the two is important. I think that if we have someone that's like, not like super, super young, we have a few salespeople that are like 18 years old, and they, totally crush it. And we also have people in like their 60s plus, and they do amazing. So I don't know if people on like those end of the spectrum would be good at merging, but anyone in that middle, most definitely, yeah. Be like, hey, listen, like we're gonna get the technology side, but if somebody doesn't want to do that, that's totally fine. And I love what you said about being from the consumer and just saying, hey, listen, I'm gonna buy another truck in 3 to 5 years. I just wanted someone to be able to call that they're gonna know what I like, and that's what people want at the end of the day. And I really, really, really try to breathe that as life into everybody, especially our new salespeople, because that is so incredibly important. People want things to be easy, especially with technology now. People want it now. Like the car industry is a now industry. It's not a today industry. It's not a tonight industry. It's not tomorrow. The car business is a right now business. And the more our salespeople can really grasp that and saying, hey, like, listen, and I always tell them, I'm like, it doesn't matter if we sell the customer a car today. I just want them to know who I am. And I want them to send me a referral. Does that make sense? Like, I would rather honestly get a referral from somebody than selling them a car that day, even though I would love to. But that connection is going to bring more over a lifetime than just getting that one and done sale. And that's kind of sometimes that's a little bit of a different perspective. And I can think that like the tunnel vision can get to us sometimes. That's hard to keep that out of mind. But I like being the go-to easy person. Like I am very lucky that I have people that call me like, hey, Miranda, I need a truck. Like one of my nearest and dearest customers, his name is Ashton. He found me on Facebook like in May, sold him a truck in May. He he came out to get it, sold him a truck in May. He totaled it last month. So he only had this thing for 3 months. He totaled it last month, and he calls me that he needs a truck while he's still like on the accident scene, while he's waiting for the cops to show. So so he's like, hey, listen, he's like, I told him my truck, I need you to find me another one. And I did in a day. And we had it sending to his house. And he also sent his girlfriend for a referral to us. So like if you can be that go-to person that if someone like we never want anything bad to happen that gets into a car accident or referring them, that will last somebody way, way longer than just kind of like a one and done sale. So I really try to breathe life into people for that as well, too, being like, hey, listen, like you want to be the one that they're going to call. And the consumer loves that. Like people like things to be easy. They like things to be quick. And then when they need something, they want it now. So if you can be a reliable, that's huge right there, reliable person that like, hey, I'm going to call Miranda and she's going to get me into a truck and I'm not have to worry about it. That's huge for the consumer. So.
I think all this applies. Like I know we're talking about purchasing new vehicles, but it applies to automotive aftermarket, it applies to construction, it applies to really any business that's out there, is blending these two ways, because I think like referrals are so important. I do it sometimes. Like I buy something from someone, it was a great experience. Somebody I know will say, hey, I'm in the market for this. And I'll just volunteer the information. I'll be like, you need to call this person at this place. I'll take care of you. Well, now that person's made 2 sales or 5 sales or 8 sales, where you're not dependent on the online shopping experience. And one, are they seeing the ad, or are they jumping on the website, or are they entering the right stuff into Google or a search engine? Are they finding it? Or as a consumer, when I'm doing online shopping, it's on me to spend 18 hours, shopping versus calling the person I know and they do it in a couple minutes. So it's a really interesting way, and I hope to see more of it kind of on the side that we cover a lot, which is the aftermarket modifications, upgrades. things like that, the way the industry approaches it, like you mentioned, being able to line up different personalities or sales techniques, or just the way you get information out to be able to make it more efficient. Like I had mentioned my mom, wanting to buy that vehicle. To me, it was so slow because she wanted to talk to everybody. She wanted to look at them. She wanted to sit in them. And I'm like, hurry up, Mom. Like, you know what you want? Let's just do it. And then on the opposite side, though, she's telling me, well, no, I need to have, I want to feel the seat. I want to feel the steering wheel. I want to see how it rides. I want to see what it's like to look over my shoulder, before I change lanes. That just skipped my entire consciousness or the whole process. I wasn't even thinking of that. So I think being able to merge them is really important.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. And I completely agree. And he said, people don't have time to spend 18 hours shopping online, but they do, right?
Yeah.
And I really from a deeper perspective, I think that comes from a lot of especially in the auto industry, a lot of unknowns, because we do this process every day, but people do a car once every 4 to 20 years. I mean, this isn't a process people do all the time, and it can be scary and nerve-wracking. And I completely understand that. But I think it would be really great if more people, not even in the auto industry, but business in general, approach it with hey, listen, we're going to go after a lot of referrals. Does that make sense? If I can make a friend with somebody and I may not get a sale from them, but if they like me enough to refer somebody to me, and then their friends refer somebody to me, and then it makes it way easier for the customer, way easier for you, right? And then we're not wasting, like you said, 18 hours going online shopping when you can just pick up somebody and call. So I think if you, especially in this economy, I mean, businesses right now have a reputation of saying, hey, the customer service isn't great. You know what I mean? Yep. Or can't get a hold of anybody, or, I don't like to go out because of whatever reason. But if you can be the one shining star in your industry to make that happen, and honestly, it would not be very hard to do it. If most people's customer service isn't great, you can be the one with really, really good, the reliable one, which, like I said earlier, it would not be hard to do. That would make your business go leaps and bounds, quickly.
That is such an excellent point, because I've seen that myself. I mean, I'm a consumer, but I've experienced it. Customer service used to be the focal point of any business or anything you would do. Places would talk about it, they would do it, and then somewhere along the line, it kind of changed to where now it isn't hard to do. Or before, if you had great customer service, there's 10 other places that have great customer service. Whereas now, it's not like that at all. So investing that time into it, you can really separate your business, regardless of the industry. Maybe it's just answering the phone. Maybe it's returning the call quickly. Maybe it's returning the email quickly. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is I send an email in a business setting and I wait a week for a reply. Whereas to me, the way I learned was as soon as you see it, you reply to it. And if it comes in when you're not, at work or checking it, you do it the next morning. And so I kind of, it affects my purchasing decisions, whether I'm looking at an aftermarket turbo, a brand new truck, a trailer, whatever it is I might be buying. It makes such a huge difference with just the small things: returning the call, returning the email, doing a follow-up even after you've already purchased, and the company or the salesperson's already got the money from it. Just saying, hey, how do you like it? Is there anything I can do for you? That makes such a huge difference for me, and it makes me become a referral.
Yes. Yeah. Then, like you said, that's a really, really, really great point. And it's true, and people are always hey, how can I separate myself from somebody else? Or, how can we keep it moving forward no matter what? And if you just stick to the basics and say, okay, I'm going to give great customer service. Obviously, I mean, we cannot make every single customer happy every single time. I mean, we try our very, very, very best, but realistically, there's going to be a few situations that you're going to have to handle. But I also think of how we handle those situations is crucial, right? Because if there's something that needs to be worked on or modified or whatever in a situation, and we handle it well, then the customer is going to come back. And just from a business perspective, if you can serve your customers in a really, really good way and just take care of them, if something happens, just take care of them, you'll have a customer for life. And it's not hard to do. The competition with that is very low. The bar is not high. So if you can consistently do that, and that's a pretty like borderline free way to elevate yourself, elevate your business, and then keep it moving. Especially right now.
This was such a fun podcast because it touched on so many things, from business to what I know a lot of truck owners ask about trading in, buying new, tips, and then the team building stuff, which I'm really huge on. I love learning about that. I love to spend as much time on podcasts as I can talking to business people, founders, owners, managers, just to figure out how they do it, because it can be really tough, especially in automotive, to find that information or find those techniques that people use to be successful. So I had a blast on this podcast. I appreciate your time, chatting with me, and I'm sure somebody is going to have a question. Maybe they're local to you guys. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're interested in something. Maybe they're looking for something specific. How can they reach out to you, connect with you, ask those questions?
Yeah, no, and thank you for that. And thank you so much for having me. I've been so excited to do this. Like, this is right up my alley, and I've had a total blast. So I really appreciate it again. Thank you so much. And if you want to reach out to me, please do. You can find me on Facebook. Just look up my name. It's just Miranda Jiggins on Facebook. Or I'm going to drop my direct line. You can just call me at 540-213-9048. That's my direct line. You can just literally call me. If I don't answer, just leave me a voicemail and I'll call you back.
Awesome. Well, like I said, it was fantastic chatting with you. Hopefully in the future we can do it again. I love to get feedback from our listeners, they'll ask questions, and there's so many podcast ideas that come from, a particular part or a focus that somebody has that I don't think of everything to ask, or, I can just think of the things that are like kind of important to me or that people ask me, and there's so many great ideas. So if I get any of those, I'll definitely reach out to you in the future. Had a great time and hopefully look forward to doing it again.
Yes, me too. Thank you.
Don't forget, Diesel fans, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com. Use code 40 TDP 2024. Get you 40% off MSRP. That's a great way to save some money if you're in the market for an EDC knife, something for hunting, fishing, around the job site, around the house. They've got a ton of different choices for blade steel, blade shape, different opening mechanisms, different handle designs, and their whole lineup's designed to meet any budget. So we appreciate them offering that discount code just for you guys. So if you're in the market, take advantage of it and save some money. Also wanted to thank everyone for supporting our new apparel company. It's called Rugged Threads Co. There's a link down below. We've got a bunch of different t-shirts designed just like what I'm wearing right now, wear on podcasts. It's been really humbling, and to see the orders and the support that we've gotten. So for me and the team, wanted to thank you, and we wanted to create a apparel that we'd want to wear, not just to work, but really anytime. So it has to do, like the logos and the different graphics have to do with trucks, the truck lifestyle, also the outdoors, and lots of other things that we're interested in. So definitely head on over, click the link, check it out. And if you have any suggestions, let us know. We love to hear from you guys. We've gotten a lot of really great suggestions for ideas and things that you guys want to see. So we appreciate all your support. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters: Tyler Loewen of 23 Diesel, CUTTERUP Rob, Colby, J Cole, all of our other Patreon supporters, all of you who subscribe on YouTube and podcast apps, follow us on social media. We appreciate all your support here in year 8 of the Diesel Podcast, and look forward to bringing you more of the content that you want to hear in 2024. Till next time, keep the shiny side up.